UC Regents Mission Bay Campus, 20 people signed up to speak during public comment. Many adamant undocumented students were no longer safe with the head of Homeland Security as the system's new president. Then, one man carrying a sign ran toward board members. A few students linked arms and refused to leave. Officers arrested 6 people. Napalitano defended herself when she finally got a chance to address Regents members.
When the students raise issues, I will listen and I will learn. I will bring with me my history as governor, where I spent much of my time investing in Arizona's universities, fighting to keep tuition for students as low as possible.
As she received congratulatory hugs, the 20th president-elect of the University of California, Napalitano, becomes the first woman to lead the UC Regents system.
Let me acknowledge that I am not a traditional candidate for this position.
Critics accuse the 55-year-old Napalitano of lacking education experience. She succeeds 68-year-old Mark Yudof. Lieutenant Governor and Regents member Gavin Newsom defends the UC system's choice.
Very often people in positions of leadership and mayors, executives of corporations, they don't have all the expertise of all their agency heads. Quite the contrary. They didn't work their way through the Recreation and Parks Department or the Police Department, but they can still manage people.
As a future UC undocumented students, to tell the UC Regents that this is an offense, this is a major offense to the immigrant communities and all communities in California. This is a slap on the face with the progress that we have in this state to have somebody like Janet Napalitano, a current terrorist, organized terrorist when the U.S. government that has targeted a lot of immigrant communities, has deported the most people in this country, and will further damage the system of education that a lot of immigrants are benefiting here in California. We believe that education is higher than deportations. And this is just really outrageous. We're here to protest and to put an end to this and have a message inside. We will speak inside at the UC Regents public hearing and let her know what we are outraged. We're mad, we're pissed that this is being considered in our communities and she's not welcome in California.
And why would they appoint her, somebody like that?
I believe there is hidden agendas. There is no coincidence that John Morton stepped down last month and she's stepping down to come in power here in California, the state with most immigrants again, the state that is moving with policies like the Trust Act that will further protect our communities. They will secure our communities and it will stop the collaboration with ICE and immigration. So we know that there is something hidden there and there is no reason for her to be here.
No to Napalitano! No to Napalitano! No to Napalitano! Alright, we're gonna have a speaker. This is Maria Flores from SCIU, right? Oh, Rosa Hernandez, I'm sorry. Rosa Hernandez from SCIU. To see you all out here. We are opposed to Janet Napalitano being the next UC president. And why are we opposed? Because we represent students who are also undocumented, who have family members who have been deported because of secure communities and E-Verify, 2 programs that Janet Napalitano has been championing this whole time. And all of a sudden, she thinks she's qualified to run our UC without any background in education, without any background in education management, nothing and nothing but law enforcement policies. She's a career politician and we don't want her as our UC president. She has no students' interest in mind. Her friends are corporations, not immigrants, not students, not communities of color, and we are opposed to her nomination for the UC president. It was a very secretive meeting that decided for her to take this post, and we are opposed to being left out of that decision making.
Napalitano is getting a significant pay bump by becoming the new president of the UC system. Her base salary will be $570,000. She will also receive numerous benefits, including a relocation allowance of $142,000. In 2011, she made $199,700 as Homeland Security Secretary.
And more details now on Janet Napalitano's appointment. She'll be the first woman to serve as president in the University of California's 145-year history. Napalitano graduated from Santa Clara University and was its first female valedictorian. She is a former governor of Arizona and is only the third person to lead the 10-year-old Department of Homeland Security.
My name is Aurora Victoria David. I'm here to protest the appointment of Janet Napalitano as the president of the UC system, because we feel that that would be a danger to a lot of our students, especially our undocumented students, because of her track record as the Secretary of the Homeland Security. Because under her, the program of secure communities have been implemented, which torn a lot of families apart and deported a lot of students.
Well, why would the Regents pick somebody like her since she's not from education?
Good question. I think maybe their interest, the Regents' interest is supposedly for the students, but this kind of appointment really questions what interest the Regents is upholding, right? So I think that is a good question that they should answer to.
And there's been a lot of more police militarization of the university. Are you concerned about the university becoming completely militarized? Is that a concern of yours?
Yes, it's a very big concern. Especially a lot of when we have undocumented students in these universities, there could be threats of deportation with this more militarization.
Hey folks, thank you all for coming and supporting. I'm one of the folks, undocumented future student, because I don't have the privilege yet to go to higher education. But as an undocumented student, I'm here with other 6 folks to go inside the meeting and do the public hearing and tell Napolitano why she's not welcome in this state. We know that as the architect of massive deportations and organized terrorism with immigrant communities, she has no business in this progressive state. She has no business where conversations like the Trust Act are happening in this state that will further protect our communities. We know for a fact that there is no coincidence that she's in this state. After a month ago, Jill Morton resigned. We all know that. Now she resigns to take power of the UC system. There is no coincidence of that. We know that there are hidden agendas that will further profit to her benefit and to the benefit of corporations and detention centers that continue to profit from our immigrant communities. We say no to Napolitano. She has no business here. She will be deported of this state. She does not belong here. She's a public enemy. Undocumented! Undocumented!
Napolitano has built a career of terrorizing, traumatizing immigrant youth and their diverse families, including LGBTQ families. Janet Napalitano has negatively impacted the mental health of immigrant youth across the country, especially in California. As the architect of family separation, Janet Napalitano is a national threat to the values that all universities must protect. These values are equality, inclusion, and fairness. Janet Napalitano does not have any higher education experience. Her only experience is in family separation, in mental health slavery, and we don't want her here!
No to Napolitano! No to Napolitano! No to Napolitano!
No to Napolitano! No to Napolitano! No to Napolitano! No to Napolitano! No to Napolitano! Thank you very much. My name is Ronnie Veliz and I'm here with the East Bay Immigrant Youth Coalition, and I'm gonna go ahead and introduce my friend from Aspire, my friend May. She has a few words to share as well. Let's give her a round of applause.
All right, so thank you very much for letting us know why we're here. I also want to point out that the UC Regents were not transparent about this decision. They did not talk to the students. They're doing it over the summer for a purpose, because it's hard to organize students in the summertime where we're not here. We need transparency and accountability from your UC Regents who are supposedly supposed to be taking care of us. We're here to tell them this is not what we want, and we need to fight for what we want, which is not Napolitano. Napolitano, not you.
Sure would.
Okay. What's your name?
My name's Susan Fry, and I've been following Janet Napalitano's career for many, many years since she was Attorney General of the state of Arizona. She was an exceptional two-term governor of Arizona. I think people are being extremely unfair. She fixed FEMA. She did amazing things as governor of Arizona, and nobody is talking about any of that, and I think she's an exceptional addition to the state, and I'm really glad to have her back.
Some of the students are concerned about the deportation of students and the policy of her agency, the Homeland Security. What's your response to that?
Well, first of all, I don't know how much of that policy Janet ever made. I really don't know. But I also know, I think people should look at what her record was as the governor of Arizona and look at that very carefully and look at the things she did in support of immigrants there.
Does she have any experience in education? And
Janet,
why would they be picking somebody for chancellor who has no experience in education? Some of the people.
Does Jerry Brown have any experience in education?
Well, he's not the chancellor of the University of California.
No, but my point is, a governor of the state of Arizona has a state educational system, which includes universities.
So you
she had 2 terms of the. I didn't say she was an educator, but I said
some of the students are saying that they should have an educator.
Also, Janet's father happened to be he was the head of the medical school at the University of New Mexico. She's been involved in education all of her life as the Attorney General of Arizona, as the governor of Arizona for 2 terms.
What about the transparency? Apparently there was no discussion or public input.
I can't speak to that. I don't know how. I mean, I'm not really familiar with how you think.
There was no input.
Okay, well that's fine, but that's not about her. That's about the UC system.
Well, what do you think about the UC system?
I think the UC system's in desperate trouble. I'm a native San Franciscan. You know, I love the University of California system, and I think we're in desperate shape, and I think we need someone who's clearly shown the kind of leadership that she has. She turned around FEMA. No one talks about that. That was an extremely difficult job. If you talk to anybody who's worked with her as a governor or on as Secretary of Homeland Security, she's known as a very good person to work with, someone who listens to people, someone who builds consensus, and I think they're being very unfair to her.
Okay.
Protesters, many of them UC students, made their presence known in front of the UC Regents, briefly marring the naming of Janet Napalitano as the 20th UC president. Several arrests were made inside, and then the protest continued outside, largely focused on immigration concerns. Napalitano has been the head of the Department of Homeland Security.
We're deeply concerned. I'm deeply concerned that some of that or all of that will transfer over. You know, her mindset, her ideology, her experience. You know, that's everybody takes from their past experience and moving forward. And we're concerned that that's going to show up in, you know, future policies.
In brief remarks to the press, Napalitano addressed the protesters, saying her goal is now to focus on academics and making the UC system as open as possible.
Look, I would say to those students, documented or undocumented, we welcome all students to the University of California. We are here, we're in the business of education, and I will be an advocate for that. I will be an advocate in Sacramento. I will be an advocate in Washington, D.C.
Napalitano, who is endorsed by many politicians as well as academics, will become the first female president of the UC system, but didn't have too much to say about it when asked.
Immigrant rights activists and Napalitano
What's your name?
Lillian Galado with Filipino Advocates for Justice. And under her leadership, the Department of Homeland Security has deported over 400,000 immigrants and created a huge militarized border. And we're concerned about the fact that this has become normalized and that under the immigration reform bill that might become law, this will be expanded exponentially.
So you think this reform immigration bill is not a good thing for immigrants?
No.
Why don't you talk about that?
Well, most of that bill is about enforcement, and there's some legalization, but the huge investment is really going to be going at the U.S.-Mexico border, where
nearly $50 billion is going to be spent on increasing surveillance, adding more drones, border patrol, building an incredible fence that we all know is not going to stop migration and hasn't all these many years. And so it's really a profiteering scheme by the war industrial complex that's looking for their next gig after we shut down U.S. participation in these wars in the Middle East. So I think that it's a disguise as immigration reform, and it's really very little about that there.
And what do you think that people should do to stop this appointment?
It looks like they weren't consulted in the first place, because it looks like they're here to approve her. Everybody was shocked. Nobody thought she has any background in education. That really what they're looking for is somebody who has connections to Washington, D.C. and all the policies that everybody's concerned about with the rising cost of education in the country is not really her forte. So it's really questionable why they're choosing her.
Layla, I'm a UC alum, and I find it completely preposterous that the Regents would go through a non-transparent process to appoint someone as the UC president who's going to be dangerous and threatening to campus safety for immigrant students and student activists throughout the system.
And why do you think she's been appointed?
I have no idea. It would be great to get the Regents' thoughts if they'd actually share that with us.
Are you concerned about the militarization of the university, more and more police, more and more security?
Definitely. Napalitano has a record of militarizing the border, so there's a lot of fear within the student and activist community that she'll militarize our schools.
Are you surprised that the politicians, Governor Brown, Lieutenant Governor Newsom, are all in favor of her appointment?
Not in particular. It's all the Democratic Party, right?
So you don't think they're really representing the students and others who are opposed to her?
Well, students didn't have any voice in the process, did they?
So who's running the university?
Should be the students, but it looks like it's DHS now.
Ju Hong, and I'm a proud UC Berkeley undocumented alumni, and I'm here today because I'm appalled by the decision, and I'm strongly against the appointment of Janet Napalitano of the next president of the UC system. First and foremost, Janet Napalitano was the architect of ESCOM, which is a federal program that which unfairly ropes with local police and sheriff acting into as a deportation agent. And Janet Napalitano claimed that she focuses on deporting serious convicted people. But the truth of the matter is, 70% of undocumented immigrants who deported because of Janet Napalitano's system in California who have no criminal background or have minor criminal background, like jaywalking. And even survivors of domestic violence who call for the help to the police got deported. Injustice. And telling me how she's coming into our university and trying to take over. This is our university. We believe in education and not deportation. Education, not deportation.
Police repression and security repression on campus. I've seen, African American activists afraid to go to the protests because they know the police are going to single them out, throw them in jail, humiliate them as a means of dividing the movement that we want to see. I've seen the former president of the UC system, Mark Yudof, encourage language that makes it illegal to criticize the state of Israel. And I've seen, frankly, very little movement on the DREAM Act and education reform. And now I'm aware that the new, immigration reform, the new immigration reform bill that's being proposed is atrocious. And in the Bay Area, where I see a lot of, high school students, a lot of you will probably go to UC, a lot of others, if we manage to fight to keep City College of San Francisco open, you might end up there, you might end up in the state system. But wherever you go, you'll encounter an environment that is increasingly hostile to genuine education, which is bringing out yourself and being the truest self that you can be. Instead, you're going to find run an education system that's trying to clamp down on you, trying to clamp down on your freedom of speech, trying to clamp down on your expectations of what a good life is. I think that Janet Napalitano's appointment to UC president is in the same vein as the national security agencies, spying programs that we're just learning about. It's in the same vein of the austerity drive in California to cut pensions, cut public sector workers, and cut education programs like City College of San Francisco. So I see a diverse crowd here today, and I hope that we can build off of this. I hope that we can create a unified movement. I hope that we can stand in solidarity with people in other parts of the country that are dealing with even more terrible repression, like in Texas where women are losing the right to control their bodies, or in Florida where the state sanctioned the murder of Trayvon Martin recently. I hope that we can start to make these connections. So in that vein, the chant that I'll lead, if y'all are down, is Black, Latino, Arab, Asian, and white. No racist war, no more, no more. Defend our civil rights. Say what? Black, Latino, Arab, Asian, and white. No racist war, no more, no more. Defend our civil rights. Say what? Black, Latino, Arab, Asian, and white. No racist war, no more, no more. Defend our civil rights. Say what? Black, Latino, Arab, Asian, and white. No racist war, no more, no more. Defend our civil rights. Say what?
Thank you all for coming here today, showing your strength and showing your belief. Thank you. Alright, thank you, Akiko, for that lovely, beautiful, moving to go. You know what I've been told. Napolitano's got to go. I don't know why you've been told. Napolitano's got to go. It's hot. Well, we've been out here for a little while now. I've told this to a lot of reporters, but I'm going to say it again. I'm undocumented, I'm not afraid, and I'm a UC student, and this is very, very upsetting. My family is undocumented, my brother started college, and I don't want him to go into a university system run by the person who's responsible for putting fear and putting hatred into communities of color, into communities of immigrants, responsible for 1.4 million deportations. I don't want my brother to go to school to a university that is an unsafe place because she is there, because she is president.
We welcome all students to the University of California. We are here, we're in the business of education, and I will be an advocate for that. I will be an advocate in Sacramento. I will be an advocate in Washington, D.C.
Her base salary will be $570,000, a lot more than what she makes as Secretary of Homeland Security. Still, it is less than what President Mark Yudof was making. The Regents wanted to make it crystal clear they offered Napolitano the same salary as Yudof, but she refused. In fact, her entire compensation package is about 10% less than Yudof's. She starts in her new position in September.
All of this happened outside the presence of Napolitano, who was led into the meeting after order was restored and her official confirmation by a voice vote of the Regents.
She has no business in this progressive station.
Outside the meeting, students told us why they're opposed to Napolitano, who is a former governor of Arizona and the chief of the federal Homeland Security Department.
She deported so many innocent immigrants, they torn families apart, and young dreamers and undocumented youth who had dreams to go to college, but they have been deported because of her system.
But that didn't stop her supporters.
She understands the application of this law better than anyone, and she, I think, will demonstrate that understanding and that experience in a very positive light.
Napolitano did not mention the room-clearing disturbance during her remarks, but she did say she supports the DREAM Act and comprehensive immigration reform.
In fact, last summer, I proactively put in motion an administrative version of the DREAM Act. And today, more than 400,000 young people have been granted deferred action with corresponding work authorization. And I did it because, as I said in my directive, it was the right thing to do.
Undocumented immigrant population deported was in California, and we're really scared as undocumented student. We're afraid that she might deport us. There might be security concerns, safety reasons. We want UC system supposed to have a safe learning space for all UC students. But the fact of the matter is, based on Janet Napalitano's troubling record, we are really scared of the fact that even going to school, and there's no guarantee of safety. And so that's why we're here today to fight against Janet Napalitano. It's very unfair. And then the fact of the matter is, this secretive process of appointing Janet Napalitano is also a clear indication of failure of UC Regents leadership. There was no public comment or public input, and there was no transparency at all. And so this is clearly not the best interest of UC students, but the clearly best interest of corporations.
And what campus did you graduate from?
From UC Berkeley.
Okay, are you going back to school, or are you getting a bachelor's degree?
I'm a graduate student at SF State.
SF State, okay.
And strengthening movement of our immigrant youth on our university campuses. We are changing the tides of immigrant rights policies across the country. And we're also crossing identity lines. Some of us are working for immigrant rights, but we're also working for the rights of folks in other parts of the world. We're working across identity lines, across policy lines, to change the systems at a deep core level. That is something that is seen as dangerous. We cannot allow someone like Janet Napalitano to come into our education system and endanger our lives, our strength, and our ability to build movement. The dream was not separation. The dream was not someone like Janet Napalitano on our campus. We're better than that, we're stronger than that, and we deserve someone who is going to have our best interests at heart. That's how it goes. When I say people, you say power. People, power. People, power. When I say immigrant, you say power. Immigrant, power. Immigrant, power. When I say ally, you say power. Allies, power. Allies, power. When I say people, you say power. People, power.
Education. The appointment of Janet Napalitano as UC president.
Okay. Why are you demonstrating against her appointment?
I think Janet Napalitano is unfit to be the president of UC. She has basically been the champion deporter in the U.S. and she, as the Secretary of Homeland Security, there have been millions of people deported under the Obama administration since she became Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, and she has kind of been the figurehead of the Secure Communities program, which is misnamed but has torn apart communities and been one of the primary ways that people are being deported and families are being ripped apart.
I see. And so is that the primary concern for you, is her history and track record under DHS?
Definitely. I don't think someone whose primary engagement for the past...
You know what? You keep pushing her as you move forward. She keeps moving back. Okay.
For the past 5 years, Janet Napalitano has been Secretary of Homeland Security, and I don't think someone who has been engaged in law enforcement and Homeland Security and deportation is someone that I want to be leading the UC system.
I see. What about any concerns about, well, I don't want to ask a leading question, but it seems that this is kind of a huge departure for the University of California system to hire someone who doesn't really have, who isn't sort of this super academic, right? Somebody who's either worked in higher education or has been a faculty member or things like that. Is that something that you're thinking about, or not necessarily at this point?
Definitely. I don't think that her background in law enforcement makes her a fit choice. She also has no background in education administration. She it would be the first UC president that has no background in education administration, and that makes me very uncomfortable. I think that paired with her having been Secretary of Homeland Security makes me feel like she would be, as the figurehead and director of the UC system, would be leading it in a direction that I, myself, and the people here today, and many students and faculty and people do not feel comfortable with.
And what about your, I noticed you're also wearing a union shirt. Is that something that's also coming into, is that a concern for you as well, perhaps, with her? Like, what kinds of concerns might the union have with regards to her appointment in demonstrating?
Yeah, well today SEIU, United Long-Term Care Workers, is here to show solidarity. A UC president needs to be able to relate to the students and the community, and Janet Napalitano has not proven herself to be a friend of immigrants, a friend of the community, a friend of unions. There was a union member from UC Berkeley, I believe, who was in fact deported under Janet Napalitano's Secure Communities program, and I do not think she's a friend of unions or friend of students.
Thank you for coming on this beautiful sunny day, and we are here to raise our voices. Growing up, I lived in fear and anxiety, and as many undocumented students know, they sympathize with me because they know our feelings every day. And at Aspire, I saw my friends cry. I saw their hearts break as they felt the pain of leaving this country because they were given deportation orders, papers that told them that they were not allowed to be here anymore. I don't know that if you can understand all this pain that our friends, our families, and communities have felt, but we have, and they're strong, and we've been hurting way too long.
And why do you think she's against you?
And not only has she been separating our families, she has been militarizing our